On the other side in California NFL football, the 49ers are not thinking about postseason or anything of that nature right now. Things are going tough. How tough? 4 games, four game losing streak tough. And I don't know if anybody would have thought that this team would have hit a 4 game skid at any point. We did hear that despite Garoppolo having quote unquote the worst game of his career, he's going to remain the starter. I got to ask you, though, what is Kyle Shanahan's next move? What's the right thing for him to do next?
I'm glad you brought that up because that question was asked immediately after the Colts game. Is Jimmy G still the guy? And I mean, Kyle Shanahan gave a very, very vague answer, but it's one of those answers that in journalism terms, you look at it and you immediately think this guy's starting to lose his faith and his confidence in his guy. And if Trey Lance is healthy, I won't be shocked if they rolled the dice and they put the rookie back in. Now, me personally, I think if you're Shan, you go with Jimmy G. You give him another chance. I mean, it wasn't that long ago, and I know I'm thinking in past tense, but it wasn't that long ago Jimmy G took this team to the Super Bowl, and we've seen what he's capable of when healthy. But I mean, just the confidence is starting to get more and more diluted, I think, Brian, with Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan, more so on Shanahan's side.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think this is just the way it generally goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you draft a guy in a quarterback within the first 15 picks, like we saw 5 different teams do in the draft, what it says is that you're not settled at the position. And what it says is, while we might not start this kid in week 1, we're essentially waiting to see how long whoever it is, the starter is going to hold off before we go to the kid. Mm-hmm. That's just the dynamic with all 5 of the teams that drafted a quarterback. Some teams made the decision out the gate with Jacksonville and the Jets. The Patriots stretched it out a little bit longer, waiting to cut Cam before the first regular season game and before they handed it over to Mac Jones. The Bears stretched it out longer with Justin Fields, and I think a lot of people are seeing now Matt Nagy and all of his buffoonery was actually right. Justin wasn't ready. Even though I don't think the play calling has given him a lot of help, I still don't think Justin's quite ready yet. And we don't really know with Trey Lance because it appears that he's similar to Justin in terms of I don't know if he's quite ready yet for the full speed. And I think his is more because he hasn't played a lot of football, period, compared to most of the other guys because of all of the different situations and things that took place. But at some point before the end of this season is going to be Trey Lance's job. It is. I don't foresee a way for Jimmy to hold him off. Now, the question is when is the right time to do that? Is the right time to do that when you're on a 4-game losing streak and you're looking for a spark, if Trey is healthy, of course? Or do you allow Jimmy to step in it again? But the problem with that is if you string together 1 or 2 more defeats, the season might be over. And so then now all you're doing is kind of trying to bring Trey Lance along in a season and you're not going to the postseason. So I don't know how Kyle Shanahan's going to look at that.
Yeah, I'm starting to thinking. I'm thinking out loud here, Brian. I'm thinking the first half is going to be the evaluation period that Kyle Shanahan's going to use with Jimmy G. And if this offense is stagnant, then I could see Kyle Shanahan immediately plugging Trey Lance, a healthier Trey Lance in. But if Jimmy G's on a roll, it's like you don't want to break up the roll. You want to keep him in there. So it's almost like, I mean, in the college football sense, it's almost like what Steve Spurrier would have done. Like if his quarterback struggled, he goes to the next guy right away. Like, I don't know how committable at this point Kyle Shanahan really is to Jimmy G. But again, going back to that post-game press conference, I mean, I'm getting the sense that from a percentage standpoint, Kyle Shanahan's percentage of confidence for Jimmy G, it just got lowered below 60%.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Confidence in Jimmy G is kind of like a common theme, right? It seems like
Mhm.
no matter what team he plays for, that's like a question, right? I don't know if you
Mhm.
saw this earlier this week. Well, I should say late last week. Martellus Bennett, former teammate of his on the Patriots,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, you know, flat called. He's a B, you know, and you can't win with a B for a quarterback. You know, he went at him. You know, so I gotta like when you hear something like that, what does that make you think? Just overall about Martellus Bennett and about Garoppolo.
You know, it's one thing for a fan to easily call that out, but when it's your former teammate, a guy you play with, and he's calling you the B word,
Yeah,
that's alarming. That, and especially if it's a guy on the offensive side of the football, a guy who is expecting the football from you. I mean, we know, like, obviously, Martellus a little bit more since you helped cover the Patriots, but he's an outspoken dude, and it's one of those things where it's like him being a straight shooter. When he talks, it's like you are going to listen. And for him to go after Jimmy G like that, especially during the Patriots like Super Bowl run, which was I believe Super Bowl 51,
yeah. They were
when they
14-2 that year.
okay, yeah. So it was that season when Jimmy G was early on the guy, but it's like I mean, you know, I mean, to use a hip hop term, like Martellus Bennett, he ethered Jimmy G with that reference.
Yeah,
He was Nas on Jay Z.
yeah, he did. You know, I feel like it was kind of. I don't know, man. I'm not. I'm the kind of guy. I don't really like when guys do that to just especially like unprovoked. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying? Like like Jimmy G's like sitting somewhere doing whatever it is he's doing at that moment. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, some guy is giving it to you, and you're like, dude, did we have a problem or something? Like, you know
hmm,
what I mean? Did I upset you or something like that? Where did that come from? Right. So that
right.
kind of thing, just from a human standpoint, always makes me like, dang, for real. That's what we are. That's what we're doing. But um, all that said, I do think that there is a general perception about Garoppolo that he
Mhm.
lacks toughness. And that is a really tough label to have as quarterback. And then when you are consistently hurt, as much as Garoppolo has been, to me, Emma, be in my opinion, that is the reason in itself why it is now time for Shanahan to just stop playing games and turn it over to. It's not because of Garoppolo's performance, or not entirely. It's not because even of his inability to stay healthy. It's because I don't know, no matter what those guys say in public, when microphones are running in their face, I don't believe that the 49er locker room believes in Jimmy G as much as they say they do. I believe they are hungry and in need of a new leader that they can get behind, flaws and all, that they can get behind. This is a nasty defense with some weapons on the outside, and and an extreme weapon in Kittle coming back.
Mhm.
I think now is the time you turn to a dude who can actually lead your football team, as opposed to a veteran who's been in the league multiple years, who you still at this point, the jury is out on his leadership qualities. So for me, that's the reason why it's now time that you go with Trey Lance.